Back, and this will take us to the end of the show. It's what is we call the home run as we get into the race to the 2023 general election. It's a very, very interesting road, and we already began discussions with Chris Nwokovia on the cost of governance. Still staying on the same road, we are going to be looking at youth participation in the electoral process. We have Iragbe Anslem. Iragbe Anslem is a national youth leader of the Labour Party. Great to have you join us on News Hub this morning.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here this morning.
All right. I don't know if you're there. Let's hear Iragbe. We check out whether the audio is great. Great to have you join us on News Hub.
Okay. Thank you. It is my pleasure to be here. Comrade Iragbe Anslem.
Right. So
National Youth Leader, Labour Party.
The different data sets for next year's general election. And the most striking thing, of course, everyone can see is with the numbers of youth who will be taking part in next year's general election. And people have considered this to be significant, even with the new registrations that have happened between last year and this year. Why do you think the youth participation in next year's general election will be such a significant thing for us to take note of?
Well, thank you once again. Comrade Iragbe Anslem, the National Youth Leader of Labour Party in Nigeria. Again, the Edo North senatorial candidate of the Labour Party for the 2023 general elections in Nigeria. Talking about youth participation in politics. Quickly, let me remind us, democracy, they say, is government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Extensively, that means the people, the majority, simply, will always have the day. The youth of this country, as it is today before us, are the simple majority. That said, the youth of this country came to a realization very most recently, particularly with the advent of the EndSARS. The EndSARS, the reason we keep talking about it is, it came as a consequence of certain actions meted on these young persons by reasons of their activities, which to a large extent were misconstrued. Now, but the outcome of that as today begin to manifest in what we see in the electoral process or processes in Nigeria as it affects mobilization towards general elections. The youth predominantly today agree that they need to take their own destiny in their own hands. This is what we are beginning to see now, because they now believe in a country that will work for them this day and for posterity. So really, for those of us who are at the level of the party in terms of leadership, we have a duty to nation building, a duty to ensure that the youth are sufficiently mobilized, primarily to ensure that a rebirth takes place by way of a new vision. So now we are on a rescue mission basically in this country, as symbolized by our own party, the Labour Party. By and large, the Labour Party, quickly, like I say, was registered by the Labour movement, the Nigerian Labour Congress. Today, the Nigerian Labour Congress, the Trade Union Congress, the trade unions, and the political commission of the Labour movement are in sync with the Labour Party. All of this came together and adopted the Labour Party as a third force political platform, as an alternative to the PDP and the APC. So what we have begun to do is to actually mainstream the activities of youth in the body politics of this country. So, in summary, the youth have risen up to take a stand as it affects the progress, the peace and stability of this nation, particularly with respect to engagement, because we are aware of the enormity of the idle hands that are in our country. They are not engaged. We have seen the issues of the strike. So all of these are issues that affect the youth predominantly. So all of these are about to change, because they are beginning to have hope in the process. They've seen a man and they've seen a system that will work in line with their own anticipation.
All right, comrade.
So I probably will have to dwell more on this when more questions are raised.
And when one wants to look back to your days as the president of the Student Union at the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, and what held then among the perception of the young people towards the electoral process, and today, would you say there's been a paradigm shift?
Basically, my emergence as the first executive president of the Ahmadu Bello University Students' Union Government, ABU Zaria, 2002, 2004, was consequent upon the realization. This was what we saw, because at that time, we had this belief that we needed to participate, because for those who knew what happened, the Students' Union Government was proscribed in 1995 by the then military regime of Abacha, while Major General Mamman Kontagora retired, may so rest in peace, was the sole administrator of the university. Now, for 7 years, the union was proscribed. Now, when some of us became students, we looked at the laws, basically, of the university, and the law provided for the place of student unionism, which had been proscribed. Then, I was in 300 level. We came together as young students at that time, in lower levels, 300 level. We looked at the laws, we agreed, and decided on what to do. So we began that struggle effectively in 2000. Of course, in 2002, it culminated with a renaissance. So it was that renaissance that bettered the advent of the Students' Union after 7 years. But something fundamentally happened. And that is what's about to happen again by the grace of God. Now I have the rare opportunity to lead the youth of this country, particularly on the platform of the Labour Party, for a rescue mission. Now we ensured that the elections in ABU was free, fair, and credible, that every vote counted. This was what we ensured. Now again, we are faced with a similar situation in our dear country, Nigeria, where elections, hitherto before now, had not been entirely free and fair. So part of what we have begun to do is to put in place structures to ensure that the elections for 2023 will be very free, very fair, and very credible. So to this extent, for us in the Labour Party, we have developed what is called the Labour Party National Mobilization Platform. It's an online platform for administrative purposes. Now, it has 6 portals.
If you can hear me, comrade, you know it's not yet time for election campaigns. But we just want, because you're the youth leader for your party, we want to understand how much you're able at this point in time to study the psyche and understanding of an average Nigerian youth with regards to the electoral process in the country, and how ready they are to be actively involved in the general elections next year. That actually is my question, if you can really give an answer to that. Comrade, are you there, please?
Okay, I'm here.
Did you get my question?
Yeah. You probably may.
All right. The question is, the race towards 2023 is getting, you know, faster, closer, and by the 28th, 29th of September, the election campaigns should start, and we should start to hear from you what your party intends to do. But as a young person, what have you discovered with the way you move around, and I want to imagine interface with young people, the understanding of today's politics, and what are those ways they are prepared to ensure that they get what they're looking forward to in a nation by casting their ballot? What is your understanding of a youth voter in the country, a young voter in the country?
It's okay. Thank you. Basically, first, complying with the electoral processes. Now, the process for voters' registration began and stopped at a point. Now, while everyone in Nigeria would have noticed an upsurge in voters' registration, particularly as it affected youth participation, the bulk of the 12 million recently registered voters, 75–80% of that number came from the youth fold. Now, all this are pointer to the fact that there's a new consciousness here. There is a new awareness because the youth of this country have realized that until they participate effectively in deciding how leadership comes about, there will still be this issue. So what we did deliberately, or what we are still doing, is to ensure that the youth continue in their massive participation. Now we are at the verge of ensuring that the PVCs that have been registered are duly collected. Now this is an aggressive campaign or mobilization we're embarking, so that the youth will have a say in this process, because ultimately it is their energies and creative ingenuity that is leading to this new emergence that we are anticipating. So for us as a political party, we keep mobilizing them. A lot of awareness are going on, a lot of conscientization exercises. Programs are being organized through the support group structures because campaigns have not begun really as it is now. So, but while we are waiting for campaigns, we have engaged a lot of programs amongst the youth fold through their support group structures to ensure that a lot of awareness is ongoing, preparing them for the voting process, to ensure even at the point of voting, every vote will count. So that's why I began to talk about the processes we have put in place. I may not go through that in details here, but it's to say we have begun an effective process that will lead to the registration of membership. Now the Labour Party is expanding its membership base via an online platform. That is one. Two, the Labour Party is equally putting in place a lot of structures to ensure that we expand the existing structures of the party through the support group structures, the union structures, the NCOs, the CSOs, the associations. So all of these are youth participatory avenues. Now, we have designed 277 working committees via which the youth of this country will be engaged, both now and in the course of the government, 2023 and beyond, because we have identified the issues, that there are a lot of idle hands. So it is engaging these idle hands that will begin to lead to the peace and stability we desire in our country. Well, thank you.
Aragbe, thank you very much. And just to continue from where you stopped in saying that I haven't been around the entire country to understand what the issues concerning the Nigerian youth today lies in unemployment. The numbers are massive, even at 38% national unemployment, and then more than 70%, 80% of those numbers are youths, so they're directly affected. But how do you hope to say, for example, this being the #1 challenge facing Nigerian youth and that is tied to insecurity, do you believe that that is enough for them to say they will take an active part in the electoral process? Help us understand how you intend to connect the dots during the campaign.
Yeah, basically, part of what we have said repeatedly, our principle really, I said, it's about time we begin to move the activities of our economy from a consumption nation to a production nation. The only way we can do this is to engage the numerous. Now, productivity. Now, not just productivity, but optimization of productivity. I'm an engineer. Now, basically, Nigeria is a country of over 923,000 square kilometers. It's a country that is endowed with solid mineral deposit in commercial quantities. But what has happened in the last 62 years is our refusal, deliberate refusal by government to engage in productive activities. How do you imagine a country of 923,000 square kilometers that is not engaged in agricultural mechanization, in animal husbandry, in processes, value addition to agricultural products? Now, how do you imagine a country of enormous endowment in terms of solid minerals, the gold, the tantalite, the platinum, the uranium, just mention them. Of the 109 elements on the periodic table, Nigeria is endowed with over 85% of this element in commercial quantity. How do you imagine us having a place like the Ajaokuta Steel Company that is unutilized? It's lying there fallow and abandoned. The steel companies across the length and breadth of this country, the Katsina Steel Rolling Mill, the Jos Steel Rolling Mill, the Osogbo Steel Rolling Mill, just mention them. All of these facilities are lying idle. So we need to deliberately build capacity of our nation, the capacity of our people. All of this we need to invest in this nation. And by investing in this nation, now we begin to engage these hands. Now the insecurity that has pervaded us as a people is a consequence of this negligence. The idle hands, they say, is the devil's workshop. Now, by the time we begin to take away these idle hands and begin to engage them productively, you agree with me that the issue of security would have been dealt with headlong. It's not by the armament, it's not by the amount of persons that are shot or killed that will determine the peace, no. It's the extent to which research, development, innovation are, implemented in our country that will determine the extent to which this peace will reign. We have a research sector in Nigeria that's virtually moribund. I'm a researcher in the Research Institute sector in Nigeria. I'm with the National Agency of Science and Engineering Infrastructure, NASENI. That's my primary institution. Again, I'm the National Organizing Secretary of the Academic Staff Union of Research Institutions in Nigeria in the last 12 years. And I'm not bold to say here, always, as I will say now, for those of us in the research sector in the last 12 years, we designed all of these processes, identified all of these issues, and we went to seek partnership. We secured the 150 billion euro funding for Nigeria. All of these fundings were meant to advance the cost of investment for development in this key sector: education, research, innovation, in all of agricultural aspects, solid mineral development aspect, industry, power, healthcare. So this is the way to go. We're a country of over 200 million people, for God's sake. Should we indulge in productivity, just the way our presidential candidate is now beginning to insist as the path to go? You agree with me that the youth of this country sufficiently will be engaged in a record time. We make bold to say that even in the course of our electioneering activities, between September and February, March 2023, the Labour Party, under our national youth development plan, will have engaged a minimum of 5 million Nigerians by our medium, small-scale investment. So in all of this, I can tell you authoritatively, by the grace of God, within the next few months, the Labour Party will have taken a minimum of 5 million youth or Nigerians out of poverty through effective engagement, through the micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises investment. So these are some of the ways to go. I thank you.
Excellent, Anselm, and great point you make there also too. You know, people talk a lot about unemployment, but also today, as we speak, many Nigerian youths are at home, no fault of theirs, simply because the government won't stick to its own side of the deal with the university lecturers and with the entire university management. So we've had the children stay back at home, university shut down for the past 6 months. What do you think, in your interaction with the youths, many of them have talked about their frustration, not just with the government, but also with the striking lecturers, that they haven't been given a seat at the table. So, you know, their real interest in terms of university education hasn't been listened to. How much more even being implemented? What are your thoughts about the tertiary education in this country and the participation of the youths in the process?
Now, basically, good enough, I believe in providing practical solutions to problems. As an engineer, I'm a problem solver. That's the training of an engineer. Now, that said, we regret the spate of the incessant strike actions in our tertiary institutions. We were victims of these strike actions even in our days in the university. Again, these strike actions have continued. But that is not without certain consequences. Now, all of this began most effectively when in 2009, an agreement, a negotiation was reached between the Academic Staff Union of University, ASU. That negotiation extended to ASURI, for those of us in the research sector, on the need to meet certain infrastructural need in terms of investment to ensure that we stabilize the educational sector. Because until the educational sector is stabilized, you cannot be talking of building the capacity of the people, let alone developing the nation. So it is fundamental we take our educational sector very, very seriously, and the health sector. Now, we regret again, like I said, on behalf even the government. I think, though the government to a large extent have lacked a very clear direction on how to solve these issues. Part of the solution we have provided, like we said, was the reason we had to go out of our way. We did all of these studies, made all of these projections, did business plans on how to invest in this sector. Because until we invest massively in the educational sector, for instance, growing up as a kid in Lagos, I enjoyed free and qualitative education. My parents never had to pay anything for my education. I can say this authoritatively. From 1979 to 1991. Now, again, what has changed? It would have been expected that ordinarily the level of quality of education and the degree to which it is free will have been more advanced. But the reverse has been the case, where today I have 3 children, yes, as it were today, I pay close to ₦1 million every term. Now, even as a civil servant, you ask me, what is my salary? Ideally, to enable me afford ₦1 million for 3 children every term here in the FCT. So that means the desire to return to the status quo, ensure that our educational sector is revamped, cannot be overemphasized. So for us in the Labour Party, the priority we have for the people of this country is to ensure that, first and foremost, the educational sector is stabilized. Now, we do all we can do to ensure that it is free and qualitative. Now, the other way to do this is to ensure that we invest in so many other aspects of the economy. Now, the return from this investment will be plowed back by way of certain ratios into the educational and health sectors. Now, we have designed processes and programs. All of these are well doctored from our designs. And Nigerians are going to see some of these proposals by way of a plan, a manifesto the Labour Party will be coming with, to say, under our leadership, by the grace of God, Labour Party's government, Nigeria will be returned to base free qualitative education, massive investment in educational sector and key aspect of our national economy, massive engagement of the youth of this country, productivity optimization. So we don't lack what it takes to redirect the affairs of this country as a people. But because I belong to the youth fold, I wear the shoes. I know where it pitches. So you go around our country, every day you find the mass of our people lottery round, doing nothing. Right. That should not be the case. So the government must deliberately, it must be a deliberate policy of engagement.
All right, thank you.
Education, like I say, is key. I must emphasize.
Of a former U.S. president who said that think more of what you can do for your country than what it will do for you. That's paraphrased, so to speak. And we'll talk about things that are the rights of the young people in the country. If you must really encourage the young people, what are those things that the youth also must do to support the growth and development of the country?
Now, basically, as a government, we have a responsibility. The first responsibility to government is the protection of life and property. That is the first responsibility of every government. Now, because already I'm talking as one in government, even in party leadership. Now, the youth, the much they can do basically is to have come to this realization, first and foremost, that their actions and inactions will determine what they get out of governance. Now, with this realization that their actions by way of casting their vote in the right direction will translate into the expected delivery, the outcomes. What is the outcome? Now, the youth of this country have been mobilized now as it is because they have come to a new realization to say they must participate in this process. The upsurge in party activities today, or in electioneering activities, as we are seeing today, is as a result of the orientation, the new awareness of Nigeria youth to say, no, we need a new kind of leadership. We need a government that will work for us. So it means there are certain things they desire from the government. What are these issues? They desire peace. They desire stability for the country. They desire to be engaged productively, employment. They desire to be supported via empowerment schemes. So they desire care. They desire qualitative education. Now, these are the issues. So we are not going to reinvent the wheel. Like our president said, fundamentally, the policy trust of our government will be anchored
and great
on
point
the
made, and we
70
hope
SDGs.
as we get into the campaign month, we'll get to see and hear more from you, Iragbe Anslem, the National Youth Leader of the Labour Party. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on News Hub. All right, so that does it. It's our work cut out for today and our work done.
Absolutely. I want to thank you all for being part of the program. We got your messages, and someday soon we get to read them and hear more on the program. Well, it's a brand new week, a brand new opportunity for you to push forward and do that which you've always wanted to do. Procrastination, they say, is always the killer of dreams, big, small, medium. So go ahead, keep your dream alive.